This will be the simplest instruction you will ever hear from me and the most difficult you will ever practice. 3 seconds, not 3 minutes, not a prayer meeting. 3 seconds of living recognition at the door of thought, and the hypnotism of fear begins to melt as nothingness. If you ask me for a longer method, I will not give you one, because the longer the method, the more you will rely on words, and spiritual healing is done without words and without thoughts. Be still and know that I am God. Not argue, not plead, no. Let us settle it at once. Fear is not met by struggle. Fear is not met by pinching the lips and marching bravely into the storm while reciting brave phrases. Fear is met and unmet by 3 seconds of recognition of the one in the midst. Where 2 or 3 are gathered together in my name, there am I in the midst of them. I am not speaking of a gathering of bodies. I am speaking of the twoness of your thought and feeling bending into the one, and in that instant, there am I in the midst. To attempt anything else is to whittle at leaves and never lay the axe at the root. Now then, this is the threshold. We will not dress the threshold with flowers and stories. We are not decorating the dream. We are standing porter at the door of thought. Here is the protocol, and we will not complicate it. When the suggestion of fear touches you, before it becomes a tale, before it paints a scene, stop, pause, 1 conscious breath. Not as a device, not as a magic charm, but as the loosening of attention from appearances. Then, silently, without forming a sentence, acknowledge, I am in the midst. Not I will be, not I need to be. I am, that is all. In that recognition, be still, 3 seconds. Then go on. Oh yes, I know the protest that rises. Only 3 seconds? What can 3 seconds do against 1,000 arguments? Nothing, because arguments have no power. The arm of flesh is nothingness. The barrier is the belief in 2 powers. 3 seconds of recognition are not 3 seconds of fighting. They are 3 seconds of ceasing to believe in the second power. It is I, be not afraid. If it is I, what else is there? If it is I, then there is not I and fear. There is I alone. That is the demolition, and it is done in stillness. I am not asking for faith in a God that you have conjured in imagination to come out and beat up your fear. That is not this work. I am not asking you to treat your mind or someone else's mind with brave affirmations. That is not this work. I am asking you to allow 3 seconds in which all such methods are let go, laid down, discarded as the arm of flesh. 3 seconds during which you do not talk to God, you do not inform God, you do not persuade God, you recognize the I that is your life, the I that precedes your heart, the I that is the light of this world. And in that recognition, the mesmeric picture that calls itself fear finds no host. Do not come to me with prefaces and history. I will not take them. Do not prepare a scene for God to fix. It is unnecessary. We are not treating a scene. We are not even treating fear. We are standing at the door and refusing entrance to the suggestion of a second power. The Lord is my light and my salvation. Whom shall I fear? There is no whom, there is no what, there is only the one light. In the moment that dawns upon your consciousness, even faintly, the sting is drawn, not because you out-argued it, but because it was nothing posing as something, and the presence of light exposes shadows as nothing. Now, discipline is required. 3 seconds does not mean occasional. It means at the very door, at the threshold, when the knock is heard. Fear rarely enters as a trumpet. It comes as a whisper, a tightening in the chest, a rush of pictures. Do not let it into the house to seat itself at your table and tell its story. Stand porter. The instant you feel the knock, stop, breathe, recognize, be still, 3 seconds. If you miss the first knock and it is already at the table, stop anyway. Breathe, recognize, be still. 3 seconds. We will not improve the dream. We will awaken at the door. You may say, I do not feel anything in those 3 seconds. That is for another hour. For now, do not go by feeling. Go by the fact, I am that I am, not I feel that I am. The realization of God's presence is not a sensation to be hunted. It is the cessation of belief in another presence. Whether you sense a warmth or silence or nothing at all, the obedience to stillness is itself the opening through which Spirit acts. I, if I be lifted up, will draw all men unto me. Lifted up where? Out of the dream of two powers into the simple recognition of one. You must understand why I say 3 seconds. If I give you 30, you will try to fill 29 with words and 1 with silence. You will bargain with God. You will arrange thoughts. You will consult memory. You will invent an enemy to conquer, and you will be tired. 3 seconds forbids it. 3 seconds will not let you become a hero of prayer. It forces you into poverty of method, and in that poverty is the kingdom. Blessed are the poor in spirit, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven. Poor in devices, poor in arguments, rich in recognition. And I give you a promise. We will not argue fear tonight. We will witness its melting as nothingness. Not because we have power over fear, but because there is no power beside God. This is the promise that runs from Genesis to Revelation, misunderstood by ages, and then found again in the silence of a heart that stops long enough to know, fear thou not, for I am with thee. Not will be, I am. Bring that into your 3 seconds. Not words, but a knowing without phrasing, I am in the midst. Then let the door stand open to that and close to everything else. So begin here this hour without embroidery. When you rise from your chair, when you answer the bell, when you read the letter, when you step into the corridor of your day, 3 seconds at the door. No announcements to yourself about how brave you are going to be. No rehearsal of dangers. Pause. Breathe. Recognize. Be still. Then act as the day requires. You will find, if you are faithful, that the reflex of fear loses its primacy. It cannot take root where the ground is owned by one, and that is our threshold. We will not linger on it with talk. We will cross it by silence. Now we must face what you would rather not face, not the scene, not the letter, not the pulse in the throat, but the root. Fear is not yours. Fear is not mine. Fear does not belong to any person on this earth. Fear is the universal mesmerism that pretends there are two powers and then offers you the courtesy of choosing between them. That is the joke of it, and it is no harmless joke. If you accept the premise, you will spend your days mending spiderwebs with rope. The only honest work is to lay the axe at the root and let the whole pretense of proneness fall as nothingness. Paul called it the carnal mind. Isaiah called it the arm of flesh. These are not sinister creatures lurking in the dark. These are phrases denoting nothingness. I have not made carnal mind the opposite of divine mind. I refuse the courtesy. There is one. Let us be very clear. This fear that arrives at your door does not arise from a personal fault any more than the night sky is personal to the man on the hill. It is the collective dream, the second creation in the language of Scripture, the second chapter of Genesis, where a mist goes up, and out of that mist a man dreams a world of good and evil, and then hides among the trees saying, I was afraid. That is where fear begins, in a mist, not in God. Nothing real begins in a mist. If it had its origin in God, you could worship it. But if its only parent is a haze, do not honor it with treatment. Do not polish its face. Expose it as a dream. Awake, thou that sleepest, and arise from the dead, and Christ shall give thee light. Awake, not repair. Arise, not analyze. Now, what is this universal hypnotism? It is the suggestion that life is vulnerable, that supply is limited, that mind is split, that body governs spirit. It whispers in the universal ear and uses your vocal cords if you are unwatchful. It borrows your memories and your neighbor's statistics, and it builds a case that trembles so convincingly you will swear it belongs to you. That is the deception. It personalizes itself. Do not let it have your name. Do not agree to carry its bag. When a man brings a letter of threat to your house addressed to someone else, you send it back. You do not sign for it because your hand is nearest the door. We do not condemn the sufferer. We do not congratulate the practitioner. We do not gather facts in order to understand the dream. Neither do I condemn thee is still the law of this work, and just so, go and sin no more, which in this language means go and cease accepting two powers. Do not sin against your own soul by granting reality to that which God did not make. God saw everything that he had made, and behold, it was very good. If it is not very good, it is not what God made. If it is not what God made, it belongs to that mist, and there our task is not to mend, but to awaken. Do not judge the man who is afraid. See through the impersonal suggestion that is talking with his tongue. We deal with hypnotism, not with persons. Let us prove this to ourselves in a small way, because once you see it, you will stop being impressed by loud noises. Close your eyes for a moment. See a street. Make it familiar if you like. Let a child run across it. Hear a horn. See a car swerve. Let the heart tighten. Let the breath hurry. Now open your eyes. Where has the scene gone? Did you heal the child? Did you move the car with thought? You did nothing. You awakened from a self-imposed picture. The tightness began to ease when the picture lost your consent. So it is with the dream of fear that rises in the world mind. We are not assigned to heal the picture. We are called to withdraw consent. Recognition, 3 seconds, and the theater closes because there is no paying audience left in you. Yes, but what of the so-called facts, the diagnosis, the notice, the figures on the paper? That is where discipline comes in. We are not ostriches. We do not put our heads in sand. We put our attention in God. Be not afraid of sudden fear, says Proverbs. And again, the Lord is the strength of my life. Of whom shall I be afraid? Of whom? Of what? We do not contend with diagnoses on their field. We are not pitting one mind against another mind to see which is stronger today. That is mental healing. And it has 5 minutes of success and 55 of relapse because it accepts 2 players on the field. There is no second player. There is one. The carnal mind is not a rival. It is an echo without a voice. The arm of flesh is a phrase, not a power. If you lean on it, you will fall because there is nothing there. Now then, the working stance. When a case presents itself, do not ask for its history. No, sir. Do not recommend penances. Do not hunt for causes in childhood. This is not psychology. This is not moral housekeeping. This is awakening. We sit back behind the scene, behind the person, and we recognize the I in the midst. Without words, without thoughts, 3 seconds will not allow you to sermonize, and that is our safety. In that recognition, something happens which does not belong to us, and fear, finding no host, fades. It cannot live on a diet of one. Perfect love casteth out fear, not perfect arguments, not perfect willpower. Love the presence, that is itself the perfection of one, displaces what never had substance. Do not be tempted to give fear a second life by congratulating it as a clever opponent. Do not say to yourself, this is a hard case. There are no hard cases. There are only cases where you are willing to accept 2 powers and dress them as Goliath and David. Goliath was never a power. David did not win because he had a better sling. He won because he knew the battle is the Lord's, and in the Lord there is no battle at all. That is our paradox. We do not fight fear. We unveil its emptiness by refusing to stand in a divided universe. If you hear this and think I am cold to your tears, you have not heard the mercy in it. Mercy is to remove blame. Mercy is to refuse to let you be the cause of your suffering. Mercy is to stand with you, not against you, against nothing really, and say, it is I, be not afraid. I, one presence, am in the midst. That is not a sentiment. That is the end of a lie. And if tonight you will take this much with you, that fear is impersonal mesmerism, and that recognition, not repair, breaks the spell. You will find that your 3 seconds at the door become 3 seconds of waking from a scene that never was. Then you will go on with your day in quietness, and you will discover that the dream has fewer places to sit because you have removed the chair. Now we must do the demolition. If you carry old furniture into a new house, you will wonder why the room still smells of yesterday. So let us say plainly what this is not, and let us lay the axe at the root. It is not faith healing. It is not mental healing. It is not a bracing of courage. It is not a polishing of arguments. It is not a religious enthusiasm. It is not even a beautiful idea. It is the simple, wordless recognition of I in the midst 3 seconds that refuse to build an altar to a second power. Faith healing, as men practice it, leans on a God imagined to be somewhere else, asked to come here and repair what another power has done. Sometimes, by grace, an answer slips in past the petition, but the petition did not do it. Faith in a concept is not God realization. God is a spirit, and they that worship him must worship him in spirit and in truth. Spirit is not reached by shouting across a gap. Truth is not attained by believing against appearances while cherishing the premise that appearances have power. When the mind believes hard enough, it can blunt a symptom now and then, yes, but the root remains. The belief in two powers remains, and you will live watching the sky for storms, congratulating the sun for breaking through when all along the sun was never at war, not by might nor by power, but by my spirit, saith the Lord. Faith in might, whether religious or secular, is not spirit. Faith in power, mental or moral, is not spirit. Spirit needs no help and accepts no rival. Mental healing is even more direct in its mistake. It goes at a person's mind with another person's mind, swinging words like hammers. You are safe. You are strong. You are spiritual. You are fearless. And while the hammers are swinging, the hypnotism smiles. For it has persuaded you to accept two minds on a field, two powers in dispute, one to win today and lose tomorrow. That is why you see the relapse. That is why you grow tired. You have been banging at leaves as if the tree would blush and depart. The carnal mind is not a foe to be subdued. It is a term denoting nothingness. I have not set it up as the opposite of divine mind. I do not grant it the dignity of opposition. The arm of flesh is nothingness. If you lean upon it, it folds because there is nothing there. Mental argument is leaning. It treats a person. It talks to a condition. It makes fear a character in the play and then plays the better actor. We do not enter the theater. Our way is not to stand in faith against fear, and it is not to treat fear as if it were something. Our way is to refuse the premise. No words, no thoughts, no direction at a person, no correcting of symptoms, no opposing argument with fear. Take no thought for your life is not poetry, it is instruction. 3 seconds of living recognition. I am in the midst. That is not a slogan. It is a state of awareness brought to consciousness and left untouched by speech. Be still and know that I am God. Not be still and compose a sentence. Not be still and select a verse as a charm. No. In that knowing, the hypnotism finds no host. In that knowing, the pretense of a second actor has no stage. You ask why 3 seconds and not 30 minutes? Because 30 minutes tempts you to decorate the dream, to choose better words, to consult memory, to file a brief, to become a hero of prayer. When ye pray, use not vain repetitions as the heathen do, for they think that they shall be heard for their much speaking. The multitude of words is the courtesy we extend to a second power. We give it audience, and then we wonder why it lingers. 3 seconds is not neglect. It is refusal to enlarge the hypnotism. It is poverty of method and richness of presence. It is holy brevity, not to shorten God's time, but to shut your door on the gossip of mind. Enter into thy closet for a breath, and there, without speech, recognize the one who never left. I, if I be lifted up, will draw all men unto me. Lifted where? Out of argument, out of belief, into awareness. The drawing is his work, not yours. Let me be candid with you. I have no interest whatsoever in the content of your fear. I am not curious. I do not want your history. I do not want your adjectives. Do you think me unkind? It is mercy. If I take your story, I take your hypnotism. If I agree to your premise, I will commence repairs, and we will both be busy in the dream. Neither do I condemn thee. I do not accuse you of making a mistake. And just so, I do not join you in describing it. I move behind you, behind your mind, behind the scene, and I sit quiet 3 seconds, and I know I am in the midst. Often you will ask for longer attention. I will not give it to the picture. I will return to stillness. It is not that I do not care. It is that caring is not curing, and words are not witnessing. Let your words be few. In that economy, spirit has room to act. I can tell you what you already know in your bones. You have talked at fear and found it stubborn. You have believed furiously and watched your belief wobble at the first headline. You have gone 30 minutes and come away exhausted, secretly glad the timer rang. Try 3 seconds without a word. See if that is easier. It will not be easy because your habit is to speak, but it will be free of pretense. And in that freedom, you will notice that the reflex begins to lose its first place because you have withdrawn the one thing it feeds on, your acceptance of a second power. The Lord is my light and my salvation, whom shall I fear? If the Lord is my light, there is no other light to cast a shadow. If salvation is one, there is no other arm to save or to threaten. Make that recognition. Live wordless for 3 seconds and leave it there. One more point, and then we go on. Do not measure this by sensations. Do not decide after 2 breaths that nothing has happened, and so you will add a few lines for good luck. The temptation to help God is the last mask of pride. Who, by taking thought, can add 1 cubit unto his stature? Not one. Our practice is the relinquishment of help, the surrender of argument, the cessation of belief, 3 seconds of holy poverty, and then we rest. If a call comes, I listen only long enough to know a call has come. I will not be on the telephone making speeches to a dream. I prefer to get back to silence, for it is there and only there that the I, which is God, is realized, and in that realization the appearance is dissolved as mist in morning. Not because our faith has swelled, not because our words have struck their target, but because there was never a second power to resist him in the midst. And so, let us stand porter at the door of thought and refuse admittance to all but the one. That is what this is, and by knowing what it is not, you will not be fooled into playing with shadows. Now let us turn the key. Not another method, not a longer silence, not a brighter faith, but the key that makes the silence living. I am in the midst. I do not give you a sentence to repeat. I show you the door you already carry. The kingdom of God is within you. Within is not a direction. It is a word we use for that dimension of you which precedes the body and outlives every episode. Before your first frightened thought, before your first pulse, I am. Before Abraham was, I am. If that I is the fact, then humanhood is a costume, lovely or shabby, according to the hour, but never the wearer. Shift your attention to the wearer. That is the swift key. When the ripple of fear touches you, do not run to fetch a better human, braver, smarter, armored with phrases. Be still and let attention sink back of the ribs, back of the brain, back of the personal pronoun into that quiet seeing place that was watching long before the scene arrived. Christ in you, the hope of glory, not Christ in your nerves, not Christ in your arguments, Christ in you, the I that says I with no surname. In that recognition, the second actor disappears because there is no stage left for him. Hear, O Israel, the Lord our God is one Lord, one, not the strongest of two, one. Where one is realized, two is only arithmetic on paper. Do not imagine that there are two of you, one small and anxious, one large and shining now, about to hold a debate. That is the trap there is. One I, and it is the life of you. Humanhood is the mask, I is the face. When I say I am in the midst, I am not calling down a guest. I am acknowledging presence, as natural as light in a room when the blind is drawn. You are not required to tug the sun into the window. You touch the cord, and the room shows what the sun has been doing all along. So with this, touch once. I am in the midst. Let the blind fall open. Be still. You have been told that courage is the outcome of a quiet scene. Oh no, that reverses order. The scene quiets because you abide as I. That is the reversal of causality that frees you. You are not fearless because the storm has passed. The storm loses sound because you are no longer supplying a second power to listen to it. Thou wilt keep him in perfect peace whose mind is stayed on thee. Stayed where? On a result? On a safer street? No. On thee, on I am. You take your stand as the witness, not as the actor frantically adjusting props, and props cease to behave like powers. Let me say it plainly. There is no fear to fight and no matter to correct. If you stand in I, you do not enter the theater to rearrange scenery. I am the Lord, and there is none else. There is no God beside me. If there is none beside, then fear is not an entity, not a force. It is the shadow play that requires your consent to seem. Withdraw the consent by a naked recognition of I am in the midst, and the premise under fear two-ness collapses. Do not strike at the shadow on the wall. Turn and face the light. You ask me, how will I know if I am not merely soothing myself with a pleasant notion? You will not if you are talking to yourself. But in true recognition, there are quiet tokens, not manufactured, not sought, not made to order, that tell you spirit has come to consciousness. A breath you did not take takes you. The shoulders drop by themselves. A soft certainty without words settles, and you do not explain it because there is nothing to explain. Not by might nor by power, but by my spirit, saith the Lord. Not by auto-suggestion, not by counting, not by tapping at phrases. Spirit descends into awareness, and the hypnotism that depended on your participation finds no one home. Many times I have been in the middle of a call, yes, 2 or 3 sentences of need. And then I am back here, and there it is. A deep, unprovoked release, sometimes as quick as the space between 2 heartbeats, and the case dissolves, not because I have wrestled it, but because there was no second actor permitted on the stage. Hold the phrase only as a door, not as a mantra. Do not clutch it like a charm. Touch it once as you would touch the latch. I am in the midst. Then stillness. When ye pray, use not vain repetitions, for your Father knoweth what things ye have need of before ye ask him. If he knows, why the many words? Because you are still flattering a second power, I will not let you do it. Enter thy closet inward. Close the door, the mouth of memory and fear, and for 3 seconds abide as I. Then leave it. Go about your task. If the knock returns, we repeat the poverty, not the performance. This I that you recognize is not an improved human. Do not drag your story behind you as a credential for grace. Melchizedek had neither father nor mother, which is the Scripture's way of loosening your grip upon heredity and history as cause. You are not well because your heart is well. Your heart is well because you exist as I. You are not safe because the road is clear. The road is clear because safety is the nature of I in the midst. You are not provided for because the figures have turned. The figures conform because supply is the life you are. Reverse causality until there is no causality left but God being God. But what if the panic is already loud? Then do not shout over it. Lower your voice to silence. Lay the axe at the root by refusing to grant it personhood. The carnal mind is not a rival. It is a term denoting nothingness. If you believe it must be managed, you will manage forever. If you see that it never was, you are free now. It is I, be not afraid. Notice, he does not say, it is I and the sea is calmer. He says, it is I. That is enough. One presence discovered is a universe reordered without a hand laid upon it. I will warn you of one more temptation, the habit of peeking. You take your 3 seconds, then you peer at the scene to see if it obeys. That is bargaining. The scene has no authority. Keep your eye single. If, therefore, thine eye be single, thy whole body shall be full of light. Single, refusing a second object. If you must look, look only long enough to fulfill whatever simple duty is yours. Answer the letter, sign the form. Drive the car, and then return to that holy poverty where you are not the arranger of outcomes, but the witness of one. In practice, you will find that the first sign of obedience is brevity. The phrase comes like a bell clear. Once, and then the bell stops and the silence rings. Do not strike it again. The ego strikes bells. Spirit needs no ringing. There will come a day, if you are faithful in 3 seconds, when even the quiet tokens fall away and you rest without breath signs, without warmth, without any credential, and you will be content because you have been weaned from effects. That is maturity. But do not hurry there. For now, allow the breath, the softening, the certainty to assure your humanness that something other than humanness is present. Then go on and do not talk about it. So I say to you, simply and finally, in the moment the suggestion arises, touch the latch. Lo, I am with you always, and enter, not twice, once, then be still. In that stillness, the belief in 2 powers cannot live. In that stillness, fear loses its premise because the only premise is I am. And when you rise from that chair, or from that breath at the sink or at the curb, do not carry a verdict. Carry nothing. Let one be all. That is the swift key. Now then, if the key is given, where is the door? And how do we touch the latch without turning it into another exercise of the human mind? We must have a rule, a simple, austere rule that denies the temptation to embroider. Holy brevity is that rule. Brief, wordless recognition opens the door through which Spirit acts. Not ideas about God, not elegant sentences. Recognition. So we will set the architecture before you, not to increase your skill, but to shorten your interference. 4 steps, and you will see that one of them is really the absence of steps. Step 1, pause. At the first ring of the bell, the faint tremor or the loud announcement cease. Whatever your hand is grasping, soften the grasp. If your body must continue a task, let the inward posture go still. Withdraw attention from the picture as a man withdraws his head from a window draft. Close the inner door. Scripture gave you the instruction long before you learned the names of your fears. Enter into thy closet, and when thou hast shut thy door, pray to thy Father which is in secret. The closet is not a room. It is the invisibility of your own awareness drawn back from the stage. Shutting the door is not a violence. It is the refusal to take testimony from the senses for 3 seconds. Stand porter at the door of thought. Do not let the tail in. You are not condemning the messenger. You are refusing delivery. In this pause, you announce not to the world, not to the condition, but to your own habit that you will not deal in 2 powers. That is all. Step 2, breathe. 1 breath, unforced, not counted, not managed. Let the breath take itself. If you must use a word for comfort, let it be this and then let it go. The breath of the Almighty hath given me life. Yes, but do not linger on even that. 1 softening, 1 unclenching, and it is done. If you shape the breath, you have taken up a tool to fix the dream. The dream will be grateful and return tomorrow. Let the breath find you. Often I find that the shoulders release by themselves. That is not a method. That is the body recognizing a change of government. If the breath does not come as a sign, do not seek it. The point is not breath. The point is the loosening of the mind's fist so that recognition may appear without your help. Step 3, recognize silently, once, I am in the midst. Do not say it to the scene. Do not say it to your nerves. Acknowledge presence where presence already is. Lo, I am with you always. I am that I am. These are not charms to be rubbed. They are doors that do not resist a light hand. Touch the latch once, and then drop even the words. If you repeat them, you have left recognition and entered persuasion. When ye pray, use not vain repetitions. Why? Because your Father knoweth. If he knows, you need not explain. Lifted up, just that awareness he draws. You do not direct, you do not aim, you do not send thought across space, you do not declare truths at a person. You recognize I in the midst of I, and you leave it there. Step 4, be still. 3 seconds. No doing, no leaning on the arm of flesh, no measuring. Be still and know that I am God. That is the whole of it. Let spirit be the only agency on the field. The Lord shall fight for you, and ye shall hold your peace. In that interval, do not look out of the window of mind to see if the sea is quieter. In that interval, do not decorate the silence with holy phrases. In that interval, do not help. We lay the axe at the root by refusing to feed the pretense of a second power with attention, fear, or even concern. Then, at the end of 3 seconds, release the matter altogether, rise, and do the next simple thing. Walk, answer, sign, wash a dish. Not to prove anything, to live. Now the discipline. You will want to embroider. You will feel deprived if you are not allowed to work on it. I tell you now, the only work permitted is obedience to brevity. I will not let you turn silence into a craft. If you catch yourself adding, stop, if the bell of fear rings again, repeat the poverty. Do not lengthen it to show dedication. Do not multiply pauses to show zeal. Return as often as needed, but always as a beggar, not as a technician. 1 breath, 1 touch of the latch. 3 seconds of being still. That is the entire architecture. Anything added is a committee meeting, and committees never heal the sick nor raise the dead. Spirit does. And spirit needs room, not assistance. You will object that some cases are large and some small, and surely the large require a longer rope. No, there are no sizes in nothingness. The carnal mind is not a mountain that yields to more shovels. It is a term denoting nothingness. If you accept degrees, you have accepted 2 powers before you begin. The lengthening of practice is the courtesy we extend to a second actor we still fear. Withdraw the courtesy. Be brief. Let one be all. Then go about your business. If the appearance speaks again, honor it with another 3 seconds of inattention, not with a sermon. You will be tempted to measure the quality of your pause by sensations. Did I feel the breath? Did I feel warmth? Did I feel the presence? Leave it. That is peaking in a subtler costume. Even the quiet tokens, as I told you, are only courtesies to your humanness. They are not the presence. The presence is I. The Lord is my shepherd. I shall not want. If I shall not want, I do not want a feeling to convince me that he is. I rest. If a sign comes, receive it without note-taking. If no sign comes, you have lost nothing because you did not trade. You were still, and that is enough. I must say a word about context. Do not make religious theater around these 3 seconds. Do not wait for a chair or a closed door or a music cue. Practice must be portable or it will be useless. In the aisle, at the store, at the bed of a child, in the middle of a sentence, yes, even there you can withdraw attention without insult to your neighbor. You can let a breath happen while your pen is lifted. You can recognize I as a flash of inner consent and then be still while the other is speaking. Nobody need know. In fact, the fewer who know, the better, because you will be spared the temptation to discuss what cannot be spoken. Let your words be few. If you are helping another and many of you are asked to observe the same brevity, do not collect their facts. Do not allow them on your telephone for more than it takes to know a call has come and then off back into the closet. Not from hardness, from hygiene. The hypnotism is contagious in proportion to your interest. I have no interest whatsoever in the case as a case. I am interested only in I in the midst. 3 seconds, and then I end the matter and go on. Often, very often, the appearance begins to loosen while I am still sitting. Sometimes I know it not at all and am told later. I am neither surprised nor proud, for I did not do it. Not by might, nor by power, but by my spirit, saith the Lord. So there it is. Pause, cease motion within, and close the inner door. Breathe one unforced breath to unhand the mind. Recognize silently, once I am in the midst. Then drop the words. Be still 3 seconds in which nothing is done because God is, and then go on. You will find that this rule, kept without ornament, begins to salt the day. The hypnotism cannot organize itself where it is given no host. The belief in 2 powers cannot stand where one is quietly, briefly, actually realized. Keep the rule. Refuse embroidery. Return as the bell rings. In holy brevity, the door opens, and what your longest speeches could not do is done without you. Let us see it at work. Theory is cheap. Demonstrations are mercy. Not dramatic demonstrations, not showpieces, but quick obediences in ordinary places, because fear rarely announces itself with trumpets. It arrives with a lurch, a ding, a headline, a whisper in a waiting room. If we are to stand porter at the door of thought, then the door is not a church door, but the door of this next second. The elevator lurches. You know the feeling, a stomach drop, a clatter overhead, the instant calculation of cables and floors. That is the bell. Do nothing. Don't grab for the arm of flesh as if that strap can save you. That is nothingness. Pause. Without turning your head, let the inner gaze withdraw from the box of steel and the number light. Breathe one breath that is not wrung from the lungs but arrives of its own accord, a softening that says, "The breath of the Almighty hath given me life," and then even that is gone. Recognize silently, once, I am in the midst, not in the car, not in the cables, not in the nerves, but in the midst of I. Let the words fall. Be still 3 seconds. You are not steadying a machine. You are not praying for breaks. You are conceding, one, God is our refuge and strength, a very present help in trouble. Therefore will not we fear, though the earth be removed. In that little interval, the inner floor returns. You will know it not by heroism, but by a simple leveling, like a table that had a folded match under one leg and now sits flat again. The car may stop at the next floor. It may ride on. You do not peek to confirm. The storm that wanted your consent cannot grow because it was not fed. Peace, be still, is spoken not to steal and counterweight, but to the sea of human emotion that thought it had a mandate. You did not argue down the sea. You stopped supplying wind. Another bell. A message on the screen. Alarming subject line. An exclamation you did not expect. Notice the reflex to read and read again, to let the mind gallop into paragraphs and futures. Halt before the second reading, even before the first line is finished. Pause. Draw back the head from the window draft. Breathe just enough to unhand the mind. Recognize once, I am in the midst. Then stillness. 3 seconds in which nothing is evaluated and nothing is promised. Your Father knoweth what things ye have need of before ye ask him. If he knows, you need not rush to be your own Father. When the three are complete, you look again, or you do not. You answer, or you do not. But what answers now is not excitement. The center answers without hurry. Often I have found that the email that wore a loud hat turns out to be an invitation to a simple yes, or an error already corrected by the time I come to it. Sometimes, yes, there is a duty, a call to make, a number to sign, and you do it like washing a dish without theater. And sometimes there is no answer required at all. In either case, the hypnotism did not enter. The second reading did not become a spiral because you refused the second power, a second glance. Now a room where fear is expected to thrive. The waiting room. The magazines with yesterday's terrors. The circular whisper, this one knows a neighbor of a cousin. That one read a study, the anchor said. The air seems to gather facts like chaff in the corner. You will be told courteously to be careful. You will be handed stories as if they were sacraments. Listen without condemnation. Receive no stories. Pause. Breathe lightly, invisibly. Recognize once, I am in the midst. That is the whole congregation, I acknowledge. He that dwelleth in the secret place of the Most High shall abide under the shadow of the Almighty. Where is that place? Not in a wall, not in a mask of human habit, but in the inner invisibility where the second creation, the Genesis 2 parade of good and evil knowledge, cannot get a passport. In those 3 seconds, the figures in the room return to their rightful size, human appearances, without authority. Beloved shadows on a bright wall. One power stands. The contagion of story cannot jump into you unless invited by interest. I have no interest whatsoever in it as a thing. Neither do I condemn the teller. I rest in one, and you will find, not by scanning the room for changed faces, but by an unprovoked ease in your own, that the field has been cleared. You have not rebuked anyone. You have refused to invite a second actor In all of this, the reflex will urge you to keep working. Once you have started, as if adding bolts will help the door be a door, I will not let you. What I do allow is this. When the bell rings loudly, practice 3 rounds in succession, not to increase power. There is only one, but to meet the persistent knock with repeated poverty. Round 1 is the first tremor appears, pause, breathe, recognize, be still 3 seconds, then drop it. If the knock insists, round 2, without change of seat, again the same brevity, the same refusal to garnish, then forget it. If a third knock comes, round 3, final, exact, quiet, you are not compounding minutes. You are declining to auction your attention to a bidder. Between rounds, you do nothing to see what has happened. In fact, you practice the secrecy of saints. You keep your eye single. If therefore thine eye be single, thy whole body shall be full of light. Single on eye, not on outcomes. These rapid obediences tend the garden before weeds take root. Panic needs time and commentary. You give it neither. Do not scan for proof. Do not stand in the elevator glancing at fellow passengers to see who is calm so you can be reassured. Do not refresh the inbox like a gambler pulling a lever for better news. Do not take inventory of coughs and masks as if counting could assign you a future. That is bargaining in costume. The Lord shall fight for you, and ye shall hold your peace. Hold it. The inner release is enough. A breath that happens by itself, a lengthening of the spine without effort, a wordless weightlessness that needs no anecdote. These are not medals, they are private doorbells, and sometimes even these do not sound, and still the work is done because the work is not measured by feelings, but by the absence of your assistance. Signs follow. We do not chase them. These signs shall follow them that believe. They follow belief lifted into realization. They do not lead it. Let me show you again, quickly, before the mind asks for refinements. Elevator, bell, pause, breath, recognize, stillness. No sermon. You may feel the inner floor return before the next ding. You may not feel it until you step out. It makes no difference. Message, eyes alight on words, stop 3 seconds of eye in the midst, then the simplest next action. No editorial. Waiting room, the litany circulates. You become invisible to it by retreating into the secret place. You do not answer arguments with arguments. You leave them unadopted. There is no second power to deserve your debate. If you ask why this melts panic before it becomes a storm, the answer is not mysterious and not psychological. Fear is a pretender that requires your attention to appear as though it acted. I am the Lord, and there is none else. Where none else is, no second actor can rehearse. By withdrawing attention swiftly and briefly, you refuse to light the stage. The play that might have eclipsed an hour never raises its curtain. 3 seconds of presence disarm the reflex at the threshold. The storm, deprived of forecast and commentary, dies in its cradle. That is why the practice must be portable. That is why you cannot wait for a chair or a hymn. If you must wait, the storm will be glad of the time. And if you find yourself, after all this, still peeking, still wanting to see if the sea is glassy, gently lay the axe at the root of that desire. It is pride in a softer shirt. Who by taking thought can add 1 cubit unto his stature? Not one. Leave the stature to God. Accept 1 and go on. Wash the dish. Step out at your floor. Send the 1-line reply. Sit without joining the whisper. Holiness has been accomplished without your performance. It is I. Be not afraid. He does not qualify it. It is I that is enough. Let it be enough. And you will find that the next bell, when it rings, has already lost its voice. Now, if these quick obediences are to stay quick, They must be clean. Swiftness without purity is only hurry. The only barrier you will ever meet is the belief in two powers, spirit and something else. That is all. Not many barriers in disguise. One, the belief that there is God, and also a circumstance. God, and also a symptom. God, and also a person to blame or a self to correct. As long as a second actor is kept in reserve, fear has a chair in the room. So we practice inner hygiene, not morals, not reforms, purification. Before we touch the latch, we remove the second actor from our own thought. Hear, O Israel, the Lord our God is one Lord, not the chief among competitors, one. How do we purify? Make peace with your brother within. If thou bring thy gift to the altar, and there rememberest that thy brother hath aught against thee, first be reconciled to thy brother, and then come and offer thy gift. Do not go into the closet with a quarrel in your coat pocket. A grudge is a subscription to two powers. Drop it. Do not accuse yourself either. Self-condemnation is the same quarrel, just turned inward. Neither do I condemn thee. If Christ refuses to condemn, do not carry a court into prayer and expect silence to descend upon the shouting. Before the 3 seconds, quietly let go of the stories, his fault, her failure, my mistake, my negligence. None of that is a cause. All of it belongs to the 2nd chapter of Genesis, the knowledge of good and evil parading as law. There is now no condemnation to them which are in Christ Jesus. Let there be none in you. This is not indulgence. This is hygiene. Without it, you will try to make God take your part. That is the worst of all idolatries. Then meet the images as nothingness, headlines, symptoms, memories, arm of flesh. No law in them. I am not asking you to deny that the newspaper has ink or that the body registers sensations. I am asking you to refuse to grant them jurisdiction. With him as an arm of flesh, but with us as the Lord our God. The arm of flesh, impressive, muscular, noisy, nothingness as law. Do not pit a spiritual crowbar against a material wall. That is, two powers. You will only grow tired. Turn and face I. The wall disappears because it had no substance except borrowed attention. The law of the Spirit of life in Christ Jesus hath made me free from the law of sin and death. Which law will you honor for 3 seconds? The answer determines whether fear has any premise to sit on. Refuse to recruit God to fight fear. Oh, the subtlety of that temptation. A tremor starts, and at once the mind drafts God into a campaign. Lord, make this stop. Lord, come here and deal with this. Spirit, go to work on that person. It sounds devout. It is only a polite way of believing in two powers. Thou shalt have no other gods before me. Not fear, not disease, not money, not personalities, and not even your bright concept of a God who wages battle against them. Resist not evil. Do not set up a wrestling match. There is no opponent in one. Put up again thy sword into its place. We are not pacifists. We are non-dualists. The moment you reach for weapons, you have announced an enemy. Announce I instead. So a quiet rule. Write it in your bones. When tempted to oppose, when you feel the forward lean of argument rise in you, when the jaw sets, when the mind begins to marshal scriptures as ammunition return to recognition, not later, not after you finish a paragraph of reasons, now let opposition die at the door. Stand porter. And do not let the second actor cross the threshold by any name, not as a symptom, not as a principle, not as a justified resentment, not as a noble crusade. The moment you sense push, drop the rope. One breath. I am in the midst once. Be still, that is all. You will find that the battlefield dissolves because the army has been dismissed. The Lord shall fight for you, and ye shall hold your peace. In truth, there was no fight. There was a dream of two powers, and you refused to dream it. Do not confuse this with neutrality toward your brother's suffering. Compassion is not argument. We do not say there is no pain to the one who believes in pain. We say there is no law in it, no God in it, therefore no cause, therefore no permanent. We do not condemn the sufferer, neither do we join the suffering. We withdraw the only commodity fear can spend interest. I have no interest whatsoever in the appearances of things, not because I am hard, but because I love enough to refuse to entertain a lie about God and His creation. In that refusal, love acts. Charity rejoiceth not in iniquity, but rejoiceth in the truth. Truth here is one. Let it be the atmosphere, and then do not stir it with opinions. Often the heaviest second actor is not a symptom, but a story about a person. They did this. They failed me. They are dangerous. Before you enter the closet, reconcile that story to nothingness. Agree with thine adversary quickly, not agreeing that error is true, but agreeing that there is no personal adversary at all. The adversary is the suggestion of separation. Meet it and say, you are a term denoting nothingness. Then go in. I have had letters hot with injury, and my first twitch is to take sides, the injured against the injurer, the innocent against the guilty. I cannot afford it. I lay the axe at the root. There are no sides in one. 3 seconds pass, and the heat that wanted to keep the quarrel alive finds no hearth. Many times the next letter brings word. The apology came, the suit was withdrawn, the misunderstanding broke like a bubble. Sometimes nothing is reported at all, which is often the best report. The drama never mounted the stage. You may say, but I am the offender. How shall I purify then? The same way. Drop self-accusation as quickly as you would drop accusation of another. Repentance in spirit is not groveling, it is turning. Turn from the picture to I. Create in me a clean heart, O God, and renew a right spirit within me. The clean heart is one power awareness. The right spirit is the refusal to hold a second actor, me as sinner, me as fixer, me as penitent with claims on God. In 3 seconds of honesty, the ledger is closed because there never was a legal book to begin with. Then, if an amends is to be made, make it simply, without theater, and go on. This will feel severe at first because gossip about others, about ourselves, about conditions has been our society. But we are leaving society for reality. If thine eye be single, thy whole body shall be full of light. Single means merciless to duplication. If there is any corner where you still nurture a pet power, a favorite fear, a justified resentment, a cherished diagnosis, you will find that the 3 seconds waver there. Do not despair. Do not scold yourself. Simply see it. Call it nothingness and release it. It may return tomorrow dressed better. Refuse the costume. Keep the rule. Return to recognition. Let opposition die at the door. The melting of fear is swift where no second power is entertained. Swift because there is nothing to melt except a premise, and premises vanish faster than ice. I am the Lord, and there is none else. There is no God beside me. Keep that sentence as a lens, not as a club. Look through it at every image, headline, symptom, memory, and you will find that the second actor cannot hold its shape. Then do not boast. Do not write about it. Live. Answer the letter without taking a side. Sit in the waiting room without inhaling the rumor. Ride the elevator without supplying a narrative. And when the bell rings again, as it will in this world, refuse to resist and refuse to join. Touch the latch. Be still. One power, one presence, one I. We move now from cleaning the field to standing in it as no actor at all, as the invisible I. This is the most subtle work because it offers you nothing to admire in yourself. It asks for disappearance. For ye are dead, and your life is hid with Christ in God. Hidden, not on display. Identity vigilance is not a tightening of the jaw. It is quiet seeing, again and again, that the only eye here is the eye that was before Abraham. And this eye requires no adjective to prove itself. Stand porter at the door of thought, and let no eye as frightened person enter. And just as surely, let no eye as courageous person enter. Both are costumes in the second creation. Both are dense with two-power thinking. At the first knock of I am afraid, do not argue bravery, argue nothing. Touch the latch 3 seconds and refuse the entrance of a predicate to I. I am that I am. Leave it there. Die daily, said the apostle. Do not make a monument out of your good humanhood. Do not flog the bad. Let both fall away. Let the cleverness, the piety, the reputation, the skill in spiritual talk, all of it be put on the woodpile with mistakes and moods. Put off the old man with his deeds. What is left? Witness. The eye that watches the parade without joining it. The eye that does not become sick with the body's report or proud at the mind's performance. I am back here, and I know all that is happening out here to this person. I am not improving the person. I am not blaming the person. I am not making a career of the person. I am dying daily to the person, good and bad, so that only I remain. I live, yet not I, but Christ liveth in me. That is identity, vigilance. Then the holy reversal, and this you must learn like your own name. The body takes instruction from Spirit's presence, not from mental orders. It is the Spirit that quickeneth. The flesh profiteth nothing. Your knee does not prophesy your tomorrow. Presence does. Your heartbeat is not your governor. I am in the midst is governance. You are not well because your heart is well. Your heart is well because you exist as I, not as personality. If you attempt to issue mental commands to the body, be calm, be still, be strong, you have wandered into mental treatment, mind upon mind, and it will answer you sometimes like a scolded dog, and sometimes not at all. Come back, be still, and know spiritual healing is done without words and without thoughts. It is the descent of awareness God realized, and then the flesh, which is only appearance, quietly aligns with the law that is already there. They that wait upon the Lord shall renew their strength. Wait, do not order. Because of this, keep the protocols lean. Do not save up for a long night battle with fear, as if your bulk of hours will frighten it away. Brief recognitions often are better than rare wrestlings. Pray without ceasing does not mean talk without breathing. It means consent to I in many small silences, so frequent that no story becomes king between them. In all thy ways acknowledge him, and he shall direct thy paths. Acknowledge yes, analyze no. 3 seconds, and back to the dish, the email, the bed you are turning down. The more often you return, the less there is to return from, for the I you recognize reveals that you never left at all. Humility here is not a virtue to collect, it is the fact of the case. The healing agency is not your cleverness, your patience, your book of verses, or your reputation. I can of mine own self do nothing. If there is any sign, any release, any sudden lightness, it is not by might nor by power, but by my Spirit, saith the Lord. Do not touch it. Do not make a necklace of it. Pass on. The more invisibly you walk, the more quietly the governance of Spirit becomes the only government in your experience. The government shall be upon his shoulder. His, not yours. Identity vigilance makes sure you never shoulder what was never assigned to you. Now, how is this watched hour by hour? In the simplest way, when the mind offers you a sentence that begins with I and links itself to a condition, I am nervous, I am exhausted, I am overwhelmed, recognize the format and decline the contract. That is a forged signature. Do not replace it with, I am brave, I am strong, I am spiritual. That is a forged signature in gold ink. Stan Porter. One breath. I am in the midst once, then 3 seconds with no thought. If action is required after that, it will be simple, unforced, usually void of commentary, and if nothing is required, nothing will be done. Either way, the parade goes by without conscription papers being served on the eye. And when flattery tries the other door, you did well, you are the one, you have the touch, treat that as the same imposter in a tuxedo. Oh yes, it feels fine for a minute. Then it demands more of you than you have to give. Do not take the bait. Why callest thou me good? There is none good but one, that is God. Keep the agency pure. Keep your name out of it. If gratitude comes, let it be gratitude to God. If reputation is offered, set it down and go into your closet. I have no interest whatsoever in being thought a healer. I am interested only in I in the midst. Invisibility is safety here. You will say, what of responsibilities? What of roles? Parent, nurse, tradesman, pastor. Do not confuse function with identity. Perform your function cleanly, kindly, on time, but do not wear it as skin. Melchizedek had neither father nor mother, not to make a myth of him, but to show you identity without genealogy, office, or history. The invisible, I can walk through all visible assignments and leave no footprint of pride or panic. The function will be better for it. The house is better kept when the keeper is not trying to be a hero. This vigilance is gentle, not tense. We are not policemen, we are witnesses. We are not on guard against a powerful thief. We are on guard against dreams, the carnal mind, a term denoting nothingness. Lay the axe at the root whenever a second actor presents itself as you. The root is always the same claim, I plus. Refuse the plus. Leave I intact. I and my Father are one. In that oneness, fear cannot find a chair. In that oneness, the field is clear. And when the field is clear, governance is effortless because it is already present. It is I. Be not afraid. Not an instruction to become fearless, a revelation that no other presence stands beside I. So we return to the smallest motion, 3 seconds, again and again, in the largest fact, one power, abiding as the witnessing I, not the actor, not the fixer, not the improved human, keeps the air untroubled. Spirit does its own work. Peace I leave with you, my peace I give unto you, not as the world giveth, not as the world gives, with fanfare and proof and applause, but as I gives quietly, within, invisibly, so that the next bell rings and finds no echo, and you go on, nameless and relieved, which is freedom. You will say, then, what of the hours when the latch is touched and nothing answers, no warmth, no breath that seems to come of itself, no sense at all, only a blank like looking into a dry well? That is when the discipline is most tender and most exact. Expect seasons of dryness, and do not interpret them personally. Do not say, I have lost it. Do not say, God has withdrawn. Do not say, this is not for me. That is the carnal mind whispering a familiar lullaby, hoping you will go back to sleep in Genesis 2. Emptiness is only the dream stripped of fireworks. It is the last costume of the same nothingness, arm of flesh, seeking your consent. Lo, I am with you always, even unto the end of the world. If that is true, and it is, then absence is not in God. It is only in the sense mind that demands a texture before it will concede reality. Now here is where many betray themselves. Feeling the blank, they begin to decorate it, they add words, they borrow affirmations, they fetch arguments, they talk to the wall. Oh no. Do not add anything but silence. Be still and know that I am God. Spiritual healing is done without words and without thoughts. The more barren the moment feels, the more faithfully you keep it bare of commentary. If the mind says, help this along with Scripture. Understand that Scripture is not ammunition, but atmosphere. Let it be a mantle, not a spear. In quietness and in confidence shall be your strength. Confidence is not assertion, it is the refusal to meddle. What then do you do practically when the agitation keeps tapping at the door and the 3 seconds seem to pass like a pebble into a dark pond without ripple? You do not forge a chain out of minutes. You string pearls. 3 seconds, pure and wordless. Let them fall. If the tapping continues, another 3 seconds, pure and wordless. Let them fall beside the first. If there is still a twinge, a third pearl, no embroidery, no trying. Between them, do nothing to see if anything has happened. Do not listen for an echo. Pearls do not clang. They quiet the table by simple weight. He that believeth shall not make haste. Haste is the sound of chains being hammered. We are not blacksmiths. We are witnesses. Sometimes, yes, you will feel led into an extended stillness. Obey that leading without noise. Sit not to make something happen, but to stop making anything happen. Sit as if placing your head in the lap of the infinite and saying nothing at all. Wait, not an idler's wait, not a beggar's wait, holy waiting. They that wait upon the Lord shall renew their strength. Renew is not manufacture. If 5 minutes come, let them. If 15, let them. But if you catch even the faintest scent of intention, now I will wrestle this emptiness into a feeling. Stand up, wash a dish, and return later for another 3 seconds. The Spirit of the Lord God is upon you without your assistance. Do not volunteer to assist. Above all, do not blame yourself for the desert. Self-condemnation is the most polite way of continuing the dream. Neither do I condemn thee. If Christ withholds condemnation, do not grant it. The delay is only the dream insisting on itself. It has no law. Lay the axe at the root again. The root is the belief in two powers, God and dryness, God and delay. God and a self who is failing at prayer. Refuse the plus. Leave I intact. I will never leave thee, nor forsake thee. That sentence, held as a lens and not as an incantation, will show you that what calls itself emptiness is a shadow on the wall, not a hole in the floor. Do not seek signs. These signs shall follow them that believe. They follow. They do not lead. An evil generation seeks after a sign because it has already decided what God must feel like to be present. You will find, to your surprise, that many of the strongest healings occur in these very dry hours when you thought you had nothing because you had nothing to offer but non-interference. Many nights I have sat as empty as wood, not a phrase, not a feeling, nothing, and the next morning a letter arrives. Release, relief, pain gone, reconciliation begun. I know then what I knew beforehand. I can of mine own self do nothing, and that is the safest condition there is. The descent of spirit requires no carpeting. You remember Elijah, a wind, an earthquake, a fire, and the Lord in none of them. Then a still small voice. Do not demand wind. Do not demand earthquake. Do not applaud fire. The voice is not a sensation, it is presence knowing itself. When nothing stirs, let that be the sign that you have not been fooled by noise. Why art thou cast down, O my soul? And why art thou disquieted within me? Hope thou in God. Hope here is not hope for a mood. It is a resting back into I am in the midst, regardless of weather. So the protocol in dryness is not clever, it is constant. Touch the latch, pause, breathe, recognize once, be still. 3 seconds. Then live. Rise and answer the ordinary call. Sign the paper. Wash the cup. Fasten the child's shoe. When another tap comes, You know the way. 3 seconds again. If you are driving, do it at the light. If you are on the phone, do it between sentences. If a night is long, let it be long, and sow it with small silences until dawn. This is what it means to pray without ceasing. Consent to I and punctuations so frequent that no narrative of lack can occupy the space between them. When the mind says, this is not working, answer it with nothing, not even a rebuke. Leave it unanswered in the doorway. Stand still and see the salvation of the Lord. Standing still is the seeing. Now then, what of the body that quivers through all this as if the nerves themselves have taken a vote and decided that silence is dangerous? Remember the reversal. You are not well because your heart is well. Your heart is well because you exist as I, not as frightened person. Do not issue commands to the pulse. Do not bargain with breath. Consent to presence, and let the flesh, which has no intelligence of its own, take instruction from the law of spirit already present. My grace is sufficient for thee, for my strength is made perfect in weakness. Weakness felt is not weakness in God. It is simply the place where the arm of flesh finally has no tools left. Good. Let it be toolless. Grace has room now. This may feel sparse to the human taste. Sparse is pure. Sparse is safe. The dream will come with new wardrobe, insisting that today is different, that this case calls for special measures. Smile inwardly and refuse the parade permit. There is no special case in one. I am the Lord, and there is none else. Where none else is, there is no schedule for spirit to keep, no deadline to embarrass God, no emptiness large enough to swallow omnipresence. Keep your rule. Do not embroider. Do not judge. String your pearls. If led to linger, linger without purpose. If led to move, move without story. The cloud may cover the mountain for a time, but the mountain has not moved. The light shineth in darkness, and the darkness comprehended it not. Darkness never understands light. It only recedes where light is noticed. Notice I. Then let the next second come, and the next, woven through with 3-second openings until the day belongs to no narrative but one. Integration is simple, or it is not at all. The day is not an obstacle course to overcome. It is a string to be threaded with holy pauses until there is no space left where fear might plant a seed. 3 seconds, pure, wordless, without embroidery, at every threshold, before the call connects, before the door opens, before the meal is lifted to the mouth, before the engine starts, before the email sends. Stand porter at the door of thought and of place. Do not think about the call. Do not bless the food with speeches. Touch the latch. I am in the midst once. Be still. In all thy ways acknowledge him, and he shall direct thy paths. Acknowledge means notice. Directing is his, not yours. Make thresholds your allies. The hand on a doorknob, the finger over a send button, the foot upon the first stair. These are natural altars. Set them apart in your own awareness, not with ritual, but with recognition. The Lord is in his holy temple. Let all the earth keep silence before him. The temple is not a building. The temple is the midst. Enter with 3 seconds of silence and then go through the door. You will find conversations start without friction, meals digest without commentary, and errands lose their tyranny, not because you have mastered time, but because you have refused the second actor to share governance. Now set a gentle chime in your life, not a gadget, though if a bell pleases you, I will not stop you, but a vow. Every emotional spike becomes a summons to recognition. The lift in the chest that announces anger, the drop that announces dread, the quick heat of embarrassment. Let each be a church bell with your name on it. Do not argue the spike. Do not correct it. consent to I. Let not your heart be troubled. Ye believe in God, believe also in me. Believe here is not think, it is consent. 3 seconds, and the reflex that would have rushed you into a storm finds no wind to borrow. It is I. Be not afraid. That is not a promise of improved weather. That is the revelation that weather has no jurisdiction in the midst. Keep a quiet record. If you are led, not a diary of the dream, but a ledger of presence. In the margin of your day, write only what belongs to Spirit's effortless governance. A breath that softened unasked, a conversation that turned without strategy, a headache that never arrived, an unforeseen ease in a place that has always been tight. Skip the drama report. If you are tempted to say, at 2:15, the fear grabbed me by the throat, and stop at the and, record the release alone. These signs shall follow them that believe. They follow, they do not lead. Let the record be for your humility, not for your applause. God acted where you did not by might, nor by power, but by my Spirit, saith the Lord. If you share it at all, share the grace, not the gossip of the dream. Let not thy left hand know what thy right hand doeth. Keep community around this quietly. Agree with those in your household, your office, your circle, that there will be common silences that require no explanation. Before the meeting, 3 seconds. Before the meal, 3 seconds. At noon, 3 seconds, wherever you are. No heads bowed to prove piety. No glances to recruit the unwilling. Where 2 or 3 are gathered together in my name, there am I in the midst of them. In my name does not mean syllables. It means nature. The nature is I without second. Gather there. Often I have asked a room to pause with me before the first word and after the last word. It shortens the middle by half and doubles the fruit. You will find misunderstandings evaporate before they mature. You will find that decisions make themselves because the eye that knows has been given its own flaw. Protect the practice or you will sell it for chatter. Avoid rehearsing fears aloud. Do not become a town crier for the arm of flesh. Set a watch, O Lord, before my mouth. Keep the door of my lips. The longer the rehearsal, the more tickets you sell to the performance. Brevity preserves purity. In your letters, in your calls, keep to the lean truth. If a statement of need must be made, make it once and be still. I have no interest whatsoever in the embroidery, the when, the how, the who said what last Tuesday. That is the dream's bookkeeping. We lay the axe at the root. Let your communication be yea, yea, nay, nay, for whatsoever is more than these cometh of evil. When you feel the impulse to tell the whole story, answer it with nothing, not repression recognition. 3 seconds, and the appetite for narration will die on its own doorstep. Make use of the bells that are already in your day. The kettle's hiss, the elevator's ding, the page turning, the child calling your name, the red light that holds you still. Each one is an altar bell saying only this: stand porter. You will not always remember. Do not scold yourself. Remember next time. The string will lengthen by practice, not by promise. Watch and pray that ye enter not into temptation. Watching here is not suspicion. It is noticing when the room is already filled with presence, so that you do not invite a second guest. When evening comes, finish as you began. Before you reach for the switch, 3 seconds. Before you answer the last message, 3 seconds. Before your head touches the pillow, 3 seconds. If the night wakes you, do not make a project of it. Lay a pearl on the dark and turn over. I will lay me down in peace and sleep, for thou, Lord, only makest me dwell in safety. Notice where the day has braided itself into quiet. Notice how little you were required to do. Notice how many moments found their own ease without you as actor. And this will be the discovery. Life does not become crowded with practice. Life becomes spacious with presence. Fear, which requires corridors of time between recognitions to set up its furniture, finds no room to rent, neither give place to the devil, no place given. The day, now strung with holy pauses, is a single act with no intermission for terror. You will not become proud of it because you cannot take credit for a silence. You can only keep it. Keep it then. Touch the latch and let the door swing of its own accord. I am in the midst. And when the next bell sounds, do not hurry and do not delay. 3 seconds and go on. We have come to a quiet place, not because the road was long or complicated, but because it was straight. We began at the door of thought with 3 seconds and no ornament. We looked at fear and refused it a face, refused it a cause, refused it a history. Universal hypnotism, carnal mind, arm of flesh, nothingness. We did not fix it. We laid the axe at the root by recognizing one power. We did not massage the patient. We did not argue the case. We did not recruit faith to shout down appearances. We stood still and discovered what has never moved. I and my Father are one. The indwelling I, Christ in the midst, is the only actor. Holy brevity opened the door. The presence crossed the threshold. And that was the work. Now let the instruments be put away. We do not measure what cannot be measured. I can of mine own self do nothing. If a fear dissolved, if a body lightened, if a quarrel untied itself, let that be the Lord's doing and marvelous in our eyes. But do not weigh it, do not chart it. These signs shall follow, not lead. We abide, we do not perform. Our practice is not a race, not a quota, not a hunger for proofs. It is the simple consent of 3 seconds repeated until the day belongs to presence. In quietness and in confidence shall be your strength. Confidence in what? Not in our fervor, not in our argument, not in our skill, but in one power which needs no partner and endures no rival. Therefore, take this as the final shape of the rule and keep it spare. When the bell rings, whatever bell is yours, pause, breathe without managing it. Recognize once the I in the midst. Not a sentence to rehearse, but a fact to admit. Be still. 3 seconds. Then go on. If a second bell rings in the same minute, you are not being tested. You are being loved into constancy. Pause again. Breathe again. Recognize again. Be still again. Stand still and see the salvation of the Lord. Seeing is the standing. Salvation is the Lord's. Do not be drawn now into polishing methods that we already buried. Do not lengthen speech to soothe anxiety. Do not set 2 powers at a table that was made for one. Refuse to make a museum of your victories or a shrine of your failures. Be careful for nothing, but in everything by prayer and supplication with thanksgiving, let your requests be made known unto God. Prayer here is not a litany. It is the letting be of God as God. Thanksgiving is not a roster of benefits. It is the quiet relief of non-interference. When you catch yourself rehearsing, stop mid-syllable and let the rest fall unspoken. The dream starves when not narrated. We will not leave this hour with a flourish. A benediction is not an ending. It is a returning to what was here before the first word. The Lord is in his holy temple. Let all the earth keep silence before him. The temple is the midst. The silence is our part. I ask nothing of you now but that we share a minute in which we ask nothing at all, no feeling, no proof, no promise, only consent. Close the mouth within the mind. Lay down the head upon the infinite. Be still and know that I am God. That is the whole sacrament. If during this minute a thought waves at you from the street of the second creation, do not cross over to greet it. Let it pass. If a sign brushes your sleeve, warmth, ease, breath, do not turn to admire it. Admiration is movement. Knowing is stillness. We rest now where words cease. Silent intention. So it is. Not by might, not by power, not by the zeal of our minds, but by spirit. Peace I leave with you. My peace I give unto you, not as the world giveth, not as the world gives with proof and payment and applause, but as I gives, because I is all. From here we do not set out to be brave. We do not set out to be quiet. We do not set out to be anything. We consent to I, and courage appears as the absence of a second power. It is I, be not afraid. That is not an order to feel fearless. It is the revelation that no other presence stands beside I. You will see what this means in practice without trying to see it. 3 seconds today become 6 tomorrow, not because you lengthen them, but because you remember them more often. Fear requires long hallways to gather itself. You will keep shortening the hallway. A thought arrives with a mask. You do not inspect the mask. You do not argue the mask. You do not describe the mask to a friend. You touch the latch. The door opens. The mask is not pushed away. It simply has nothing to stand on. The light shineth in darkness, and the darkness comprehended it not. Darkness never understands light. It only retires in its presence. Let there be light, and go on. And as you go on, do not be surprised when ordinary moments become sacraments. The turning of a key, the first sip of water, the seatbelt's click alters, the space between question and answer alter, the breath before you speak your child's name alter. One power governs the smallest hinge and the widest gate. The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. You will not want for words because fewer are required. You will not want for strength because strength is not imported, it is recognized. You will not want for courage because courage is not a mood, it is the fact of one. If you forget, and you will, forgetting is not sin, it is weather. When you notice, notice gladly. Touch the latch, 3 seconds. Do not add apology, neither do I condemn thee. Start there, and you will find that starting is the same as abiding. For the I you acknowledge has never ceased, and if a day comes that seems to mock all of this with storms and noise, do not make a special case. The rule is the same because God is the same. Lay the axe at the root, refuse the second actor, pause, breathe, recognize, be still. If you can do no more than that, you have done all. The presence in the midst completes what our words never could. And so we leave it there for tonight, not as a period, but as a resting place. Tomorrow will ring its bells. When it does, you know your work. Holy brevity, unhurried courage, no second power, I in the midst. Lo, I am with you always, even unto the end of the world. Always is the only schedule we need. Keep the door on its oiled hinges. Stand porter with a light hand. 3 seconds and go on.